I had this comment come up on one of my most recent videos. So Itashamafazal5678, if that is your real name, here's my thoughts on how I would approach this. So your question was, if you had to learn coding from scratch, how would you do it? I'm trying to learn coding. Do you have any tips? Yeah, I do. So, okay, let's see. Where do we start? So I did a video not too long ago. Actually, in fact, you left your comment on this video. So let's take a look. So this is a guide for new devs. And what this is talking about is specifically what the difference between backend, DevOps, database, front-end, mobile, IoT, those type of things are, and where I would recommend starting. I'll spoil this video for you. I do think you should go watch it. There's a ton of valuable information in here, including we draw some stuff. Let's see. To go ahead and mute that. We draw some stuff here, kind of indicating how things fit together. So you can see there's a person. They use the front-end web to talk to a back-end, which talks to a database. That's a pretty common pattern. It doesn't necessarily mean that that's always the pattern that apps use, but that one's pretty common. And then you see the same thing here for mobile. So mobile talks to a back-end, which talks to a database. Specifically, an interesting thing is the back-end is essentially the abstraction point for the mobile and the front-end. Which allows mobile users to talk to front-end web users and vice versa. This means that you get the same Facebook experience, whether you're on a mobile app or a front-end web application, so something in your browser. So yeah, how would I start? My suggestion, spoiling this video, is at the end of the video, I recommend learning JavaScript. And surprising probably no one, I also did a video not too long ago called a programming tier list for new devs. My goodness, I have a lot of videos. This one. This one's funny. I have a lot of people comment and say things like, JavaScript is S tier. You're crazy. They obviously didn't watch the full video. And I explain why too. In fact, let's just open it. So we can look at these comments. Someone somewhere down here will complain about JavaScript. I don't get why everyone is putting JS in top tier. I think it's A. For me, it's employability, beginner friendliness, content to learn from, and use cases. And JS just takes the cake in that combined criteria. I don't think there's a better option. This is kind of an interesting suggestion. Python for data structure and algorithms, leak code. I don't know how valuable that is. For certain jobs, you might have weird interviews where you have to do leak code problems or things like that. Those suck. I hate that the industry does those. They're not indicative of real world problems. So you end up getting a giant book called Cracking the Coding Interview and studying that book for a long time just to pass the interview. And then you never use, I shouldn't say never, but almost never use anything from leak code or cracking the coding interview in your actual day-to-day job. So there's employers that don't do that stuff. And I recommend finding one of those, especially if you're just starting out. So yeah, for me, it's employability, beginner friendliness, content to learn from, use cases. Okay, so with that in mind, JavaScript is what I recommend. So let's take it a step farther. So if you want to learn JavaScript, here's what I would do. I would go to a course website like Udemy. These are hit or miss. Most courses on here, they're miss. I'm going to tell you why I think you should use a course website here in just a second. I would probably recommend this one. So here's why I think you should use a course website instead of YouTube videos. Or there's a caveat. Find someone who does a course from start to finish on YouTube. It can be a single video. It can do multiple videos. I've done the multiple video one before. The whole point, though, that I'm trying to drive home is the last thing you want is someone who has started teaching you how to build a to-do app or a Twitter clone or something like that, and then it just stops. If that course stops, that's really bad. You want to build something from start to finish. So one of the nice things that you get from the courses on Udemy is that they generally build something from start to finish. Dr. Angela Yu, I actually took her Flutter course when I first started learning Flutter. So I was teaching myself Flutter in my spare time, and I said, hey, I bet I could do this faster if I had a course to go through as well. So I took her course, and she's an excellent instructor. So I would probably recommend starting there. This is probably what I would recommend. I've not done this course, but it says learn the latest technologies, including JavaScript, React, Node, and even Web3 development. Let's talk about these. JavaScript. if you watch my other video, not this one, but the other one, it was used on the front end and the back end. So front end web, JavaScript. Back end, you can use JavaScript. There's a lot of other options as well. But one of the reasons that I think JavaScript is an excellent choice to start with is you can use it for the front end or the back end. And technically, there's even a way to use it for mobile. So with that in mind, you're getting JavaScript. React is the, for better or worse, most popular front-end framework or library, depending on how you stand on that, for front-end development. So React makes certain tasks easier to do for building web and native user interfaces. So this is also what you would use on mobile if you wanted to build a mobile app with JavaScript. So this is what it looks like. This might sound confusing or look confusing at first. The short and sweet is that if you know HTML, this looks like HTML, but you're able to build components and use those components. So there's a thumbnail component. So you can think of this as like a chunk of HTML that just gets embedded right here. Excuse me. Same with the like button. And then there's just normal HTML. If you don't know what that means, start with a course that makes sure that you cover HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Node is the runtime for running JavaScript on the back end, on the server. So JavaScript runs in your browser, but it also can run on a computer, like on a standalone computer that doesn't have a browser. That would be what we would call a server, generally. And then you also get React. Postgres is a database. Web3 and dApps, take it or leave it. I've worked for a Web3 company. We did some really interesting stuff. I don't think everyone's doing interesting stuff with Web3. I don't think that most of the people that are using Web3 probably should be using Web3. In fact, I think a lot of people have realized that too and have stopped. But there are some companies that are using Web3 technologies. And if you're unfamiliar with Web3, this is decentralized technologies like blockchains and crypto type things. They're not all scams. Some could be. And unfortunately, that kind of harmed the whole Web3 movement in a big way. You could skip this part, I guess is what I'm getting at. You might find it very interesting, and you might enjoy building things on a blockchain. And if so, congratulations, you've learned front-end and back-end development and some database stuff, and also Web3 stuff, all in one course for $18.99 on sale. I wish I was an affiliate for Angela because I will peddle her stuff left and right. I'm not. I get nothing out of this. She's just a really great teacher, and I have a lot of people ask how to get started. Okay, so yeah, so that's the short and sweet answer to your question, but I've actually got a lot more that I want to add to it. So find a course. Again, this doesn't have to be something on Udemy that you pay for. There are tons of courses available. My caveat here is I would look for something in the multiple hour range. I don't think you're going to learn the skills you need in 16 minutes. Fireship is an excellent content channel, and this actually might be really useful to help you learn a little bit more about Node and what it is, but you're not going to be a Node dev by the time that you finish this. This seems great. I don't know much about the quality of Free Code Camp, but the fact that it's an 8-hour course and it's focused on Node.js and Express. Express is a library for Node. For building server-side applications. That's a great start. So again, you don't necessarily have to pay for a course. I will again say that the quality of the Dr. Angela Yu courses are fantastic. The audio is great. The video quality is great. There's tons of fun animations. She's kind. She's, understanding. She's a really great instructor. This is probably great too. I've heard great things about Free Code Camp. Never done a course, never walked through it, no idea. But the point being that this being 8 hours is a good sign. This being 2 hours, not a bad sign. 16 minutes, excellent video. Fireship, I love your stuff. Most of your stuff is very funny and educational, but you're not going to be a Node dev by the time you finish this. In fact, you probably won't have much confidence about anything Node except some high-level things. Like, what is Node? Should you learn Node? Apparently, yes. Those type of things. This will actually guide you through, setting up Node on your computer and doing those things. And again, even if you don't do this course that has everything all in one, I would probably take this as your curriculum and do, so we did Node.js course. Let's do React course. React tutorial for beginners, 1 hour, 20 minutes. That's probably pretty good. This one's 3. That seems even better. Traversy Media is a good content creator, so I think you'll probably get really good stuff from this course if you were to take this approach. 4 hours, 43 minutes, that seems pretty good too. And again, it's not about the amount of time, but the reality is that learning and becoming skilled with something takes time. And you could have someone that guides you for an hour of that time, or you could have someone that guides you for 5 hours of that time. And the difference is, if you need 10 hours to become effective at something, you're going to be better off if you spend 5 hours guided as opposed to 1 hour guided. So do some of these tutorials, do some of these courses, make sure they're in depth, make sure there are things that go slow. They teach you the basics. If you're self-taught, take that approach. Second thing, once you finish these courses, change it. So if you build in, let's see, what are we building in this course? So in this Ultimate React app, exercises, it looks like we're this actually might be pretty good. It doesn't look like we're building a full thing, where maybe with the Traversy Media one, delete React Hostify package. Yeah, this actually seems really good too. Okay, so it looks like what you're building is this site, this React Jobs website. Become a React dev, find a React job that fits your skill set. So again, just to reiterate, in 3 hours, you go from nothing to building a job portal website. That's fantastic. Once you finish this course, change it. Figure out, so this is only React jobs, make it React and Node jobs. Figure out how to make changes to this so it supports new things. That is one of the best ways to learn, is take something that exists and modify it to meet your needs, or build from scratch. Building from scratch is really hard. It's something that you'll get better with over time, but if you have someone who walks you through building from scratch, once you get to the end of it, modify it so it does something different. It's going to be similar, but do something different. Maybe allow people to filter the recent jobs list here, or maybe if you don't do it in the browse jobs piece, maybe make search an option so you can add search, or something of that nature. Modify existing code. Because the reality is, what you spend your time doing when you're employed is modifying existing code. You'll be fixing bugs, you'll be adding new features. Occasionally, you'll start new projects from scratch, but it's not common. So get comfortable modifying existing code. Let's see, what else? The next tip I have, this is arguably one of the most important ones. Go away. Step out of your house. Go to a coffee shop. Put headphones in, turn on music without lyrics, find something. Actually, don't do music because you're going to be watching a video course, so you need to be able to hear the instructor. The point that I'm getting at is find a way to eliminate distractions from your learning, because if you sit here and you're constantly getting distracted, you will not continue, you will not finish the course. I get that. 3 hours is a long freaking time, but it's the amount of time you need to put in to start getting good at something. And again, that's to start getting good at something. It will take more time to become proficient. It will take even more time to become an expert. It will take 40,000 plus hours to master your craft. Even then, you may not be a master. The point I'm getting at is that there's a big time commitment, and if you can't spend 3 hours doing this, you're not going to succeed. I get that. It's hard. It is very hard. I go once a week to a coffee shop because I have very few distractions at a coffee shop. I can put my headphones in. I meet some friends there. We socialize a bit. But if I really need to get something done, I will put my headphones in. I will pump my music up, and I will just code for 2 to 3 hours. And the point I'm getting at here is, if I sit at home, I have my dogs. My Australian Shepherd will come in. She'll nudge me. She'll want to play. She'll bring toys, and she'll stare at me with her puppy dog eyes. My wife may need something. I may just get bored and want to play video games. I may get bored and want to read. I may need to find chores to do, or need to do chores anyways. There are a million things that will distract you from taking the time, investing the time even, to becoming a software dev, especially if you're self-taught. Don't let those get in the way. That's the biggest thing. I see some of my friends have issues with that. They will have a product or a project in mind, and their two big issues that I see time and time again are hesitancy to start, or resistance in starting that project, feeling like they need to make all the right decisions up front. You don't. And then the second thing is just attention. And attention is so hard to manage in this day and age with Instagram Reels, TikTok, all that stuff, YouTube Shorts. Don't get me wrong, I love when you watch my YouTube Shorts, but it's probably getting in the way of you actually taking the time to learn the things that you need to learn. Okay, I think that's it. I will give you one more thing that I really enjoy. Some people say that they're a really bad choice because, you know, by the time that they're in print, a lot of times the content is out of date. I don't think that's necessarily true. I really recommend finding a good programming book where two things. One, if you find a programming book, this one's not so much programming. This is called Software Architecture, the Hard Parts. I don't think there's a single line of code in here. If there is, it's just for demonstration purposes and is not meant to be typed in. But the point I'm getting at is that this is something that you really read through slowly, chew on it, and think about what it is teaching you. I don't recommend this book for new devs. This is for someone really deep in their career. That being said, I know that there are, if we search JavaScript on Google Books, I'm sure we'll find an O'Reilly book. I've heard good things about this. This seems a little out of date at this point. But let's see. 2024 JavaScript Crash Course, a hands-on project-based introduction to programming. This might be good. The no starch press books generally run for about 30, 35, 40 bucks for a hard copy. And I think you can get the PDF copy even cheaper. It looks like you can get a ton of the content on Google Books too, for free, potentially. These look like you can click into them. So visualizing data, maybe not all of that. Okay. Yeah, it's not the whole thing. It looks like it's just chunks of it. But the whole point that I'm getting at is that books can be really great too. And if you take a book approach, and you should do this with a course approach too, don't just watch, don't just read. If there is code, you should type the code in and you should run it and make sure it works the same way that it works for you. And then change it. So this says hello world. I'll even show you what this does. This is console logging hello world. So if you're new to programming, this is something called the console. There are ways to get to this in your browser. There's ways to get to an equivalent on your computer in like a terminal or your IDE, which stands for Integrated Development Environment. Console, oh my goodness, console log hello world. All this does is prints the words hello world. So change it. What happens if I type hello Brad? What happens if I type hello 1234? Okay, cool. This is called a string. What happens if I don't pass in a string and I just pass in the number 44? Okay, it still says 44. That's cool. Play with the program and figure out what you like, what this actually does, what this code does behind the scenes. Figure out how it works. What happens if I pass it this? What happens if I pass it this? Play with that and see what happens. I think that's probably most of what I would say at this point. I would recommend finding a book too. Those courses are great. Make sure you're typing things in. You're actually going through the exercise. You're not just reading. You're not just watching. Definitely don't just listen. You will get so little if you put on a course and listen to it while you do dishes or while you play video games or anything like that. Take the time, find a way to take the time, and then actually focus in on this. You might want to do multiple monitors. You might not want to do multiple monitors. My only thing that I would recommend if you do multiple monitors, don't throw the course up on a monitor and then browse the web. Don't do something like that. If you're going to do multiple monitors, put the course on one monitor, pause it a lot as you go, and then have the other monitor be your IDE, your integrated development environment. In fact, we should probably talk about those too. There's a lot. I recommend this. The short and sweet is that for most people, VS Code is probably the best code editor that you can have. An IDE stands for Integrated Development Environment. I don't know if I see that word anywhere here. I do not. So maybe they don't consider themselves an IDE. This is a somewhat lightweight editor. It's not a big install. It's not very complicated to install on your machine. It has extensions, which are really nice. So you can do, you can get extensions for the specific languages that you want to work with that make working with those languages easier. There's all sorts of really nice things. So yeah, example of extensions. It's customizable. You don't like that white, you can change the theme to something else. You can actually even code in your browser at vscode.dev, which is kind of wild. Yeah, there's that. If you want something more hands-on, there's an IDE called WebStorm. Again, this is for JavaScript and TypeScript. So if you want something that's not JavaScript or TypeScript, you can look at JetBrains' other options. VS Code runs everything. Almost everything. Anything that you would want to learn, VS Code is going to run. If you get into weird esoteric stuff, like some of my interests are very esoteric programming languages, you might not be able to run those in VS Code, but any of the major languages, Python, Java, JavaScript, TypeScript, Ruby, Go, Rust, C++, C#, any of that stuff can work in VS Code. WebStorm's free. This is somewhat new. It's free for non-commercial use. So this is a really great product if you enjoy a more all-in-one experience. So it's ready to go out of the box, which is really nice for those things. And then they have other tools as well. So if you are really into, oh man, I don't know what most of these do anymore. I used to enjoy JetBrains products quite a bit, but I don't really use them as much anymore. So Goland would be their IDE specifically for Go. Gophers are what they call Go developers. So I am a Gopher. PyCharm would be for Python, PHP Storm for PHP, CLion for C#, I think. Writer also for C#, maybe in a different way. RubyMine for Ruby, Rust Rover for Rust. Yeah, I don't know what writer side is. I'm kind of curious about that. Write, test, build, and publish the best tutorials. Oh, I should take a look at that. Anyways, yeah, so that's an IDE. You'll probably want to get started with something like that. And again, most of the all-in-one courses that you start with will probably guide you through installing something like Visual Studio Code to get started with. A lot of people use this. It's really, really well supported. So yeah, I would maybe start there. Hopefully this has been helpful. Again, just to recap, do a course, either pay for this excellent course. I haven't taken it, but I've taken several, or well, one and started another of Dr. Angela Yu's courses. They're really great. I'm assuming this one will be just as great as the others. So yeah, take the time to go through those from start to finish. Find a way to minimize your distractions. Make sure you change the thing that you build at the end, modify it so you're exploring and really understanding what you've built and you're not just typing in the code that someone else has told you to type in. You can also look at the documentation. So if you want to learn React specifically, you can go to Learn here and start here. One of the caveats to this, though, is that I think that this probably requires a little bit more knowledge on how the JavaScript ecosystem fits together. Maybe not. Maybe with this interactive tutorial, it might be a little easier. But like, this is neat. You can build a tic-tac-toe game in React in the browser, and you can actually, it looks like you probably coded all right here, but I could be wrong on that. Anyways, yeah, so do that. I'd pick up a book. I would learn through the, read through the book, and then, hands-on project-based type things are fantastic. Make sure you type the code, make sure you run the projects, change the projects again, so you have a really good understanding of how your stuff fits together. I think that's it. Hopefully this is helpful. Have a great day and best of luck. Let me know how it goes. I'm here to help. So if you are starting your web dev journey or your software development journey and you hit a roadblock, just leave a comment and I'll respond to it. I'm here to help. I'll do what I can. If we need to set time aside, I will try to set time aside to answer your questions, or email you or you know, something. So let's get you to your goals and get you started as a software engineer. Have a good one.